All right, very important. If you're thinking of going to a breeder and selecting a puppy and you're in the process of deciding where to start in terms of what breeder to go to, and we'll put breed aside for a moment, the most important concept that you have to understand, and really the number one question you should ask the breeder about, is whether they breed for form or for function. And you can ask them directly, say, are your breeding practices, are you guys breeding primarily for form or function? Are they being bred for working purposes or to be in line with standards that have been proposed by whether it's the AKC or some other dog organization. And if they don't know the answer to that question, they don't know what you're talking about, don't go to them, first of all. And second of all, if they're breeding for form over function, then you should not go to them. You should go to a good breeder who breeds dogs because they can work. Okay, and they'll all say temperament, health, and people who breed dogs for work, they want the dogs to have good conformation for health purposes and because it factors into work too. But form always should follow function. I'll explain why in a second, but you should go to a good breeder who works working dogs. If you're looking for a family pet, just look at them, okay? If you want, you could bring a trainer to help you evaluate and get maybe the calmer one, okay? And it doesn't have to be some crazy breed like working line German Shepherds or something like that, or Roddy or something. It could be like a family type dog, like a Australian Shepherd, or even a Lab, Border Collie, Sheltie. These are all dogs that were bred to work, to do a task. And you're going to want to go to a breeder that is breeding them for those purposes. Here's why. If you think about it genetically, what they're doing when they breed for form over function is that they're limiting the gene pool. So you're getting a lot of single trait breeding. Worst case scenario would be single trait breeding. Maybe they're selecting for 2 or 3 traits. So you take like Labs. They were being bred for primarily docility. A lot of color breeding. That's another thing to watch out for, is breeders. So like right now you're seeing a lot of Malinois that look just amazing. The Belgian Shepherds. They have these black masks and they look like African wild dogs. They're incredible. And I'm like, I wouldn't touch that fucking dog with a 10-foot pole, because it's clear that dog they've been selectively bred for color. And once you're only paying attention to that, you're narrowing the gene pool. You're getting a lot of recessive traits, much less healthy dogs, more neurological disorders. And this is why you're seeing so many seizures in like Goldens and Labs. They've been overbred, overly selected for just a few traits, 1, 2, maybe 3. Docility being the primary trait that they're being selected for. So in order to avoid that, you want to go to a good working breeder, because if you think about it, a task, whether it's for a person or a dog, it involves many different traits. And a trait is obviously going to be related to many different genes. So you're getting a wider gene pool. It's a sturdier, healthier gene pool. You're not going to get as many recessive genes getting passed down. And the dogs are healthier. And there's less... The idea of a breed, I think now, is way different from, say, like 100 years ago. Breeds were like, they'd be related to a region, and you get a style of dog based upon what farmers or whatever work was needed in that region, whatever the type of job they were doing. It was related to a region and to a specific task, and the dog came to be named after that particular region. I think that's pretty much how it went, maybe 200 years ago. And then over time, really since like the 50s, I don't know when the AKC started, I think it's the 50s though, maybe before. That's when people started to get like all these snooty ideas about breeds, I think, where it's like, oh, that's a X and it has to look like this. And then people started getting hyper fixated on the look of the dog. If you look in like Western and Eastern Europe, I think it's particularly Western Europe, but like all those shepherds that are used like on a lot of dog protection, competitive sports and police dogs, those shepherds, right? So whether it's a Dutch Shepherd, a Malinois, a German Shepherd, a lot of those dogs, and I think especially males, they keep the genetic lines open. So they don't care. They'll throw in like a pit bull or even a Great Dane into a line and keep the genetic pools open if they want to breed in a little bit of size or this or that. And what it does is they're one of the healthiest breeds, Malinois. I mean, now that they're becoming more popular, you'll see their health begin to deteriorate now that people in the suburbs are getting them because they think they've been in a few movies and they look cool. But you're getting this wider gene pool basically. Healthier dog, sturdier dog. Neurological issues are not going to be present typically. I mean, you got to have really bad luck to have something like that happen with a properly bred working dog. And you're going to have fewer behavioral issues so long as you understand your dog and their instinctual drives. And here's the thing, guys, like if you think, for instance, like a dog with a high prey drive, they get excited by squirrels or cats. If you think that's a behavioral problem and not an instinct that needs to be channeled, then you should not own a dog. You really shouldn't. And I think that's the big problem, is that we're defining dogs downward. We're creating like these pygmy dog-like monsters, like mean piece of shit French bulldogs that can't breathe or reproduce, but just like they'll skip steps in the aggression cycle and bite you if you withhold a treat too long. And they have seizures, and people spoil them and make it work. You know what I mean? Like, and that's our expectation. Or just like these poor fucking labs that are like have seizures too, and they're fat and they just lay on the couch all day. Oh, he's a couch potato. He's so sweet. You bred the dog out of the poor fucking thing. You know, like he was bred to work. And so people can't accept that anymore. They want to just throw the dog in the backyard and, I want a lazy dog. So now we're breeding to that. And that needs to stop, and your expectations need to be in line with what a dog actually is. Okay, so that's a big one. But if you're going to go to a breeder, ask them, do you breed for form or for function? What's your priority? Do you breed for working purposes, or do you breed? Are you more aesthetically oriented? You can be crafty about how you phrase it. They should know what you're talking about. Ask that question. Always, always, always go to a good breeder who breeds for function over form. Okay? Needs to be task related, work related. You'll get much, much better genetics. You get a higher drive dog, maybe with more energy. Pick the calmer one. Also, if you're looking for a breeder recommendation, Google, like, there are a lot of dog geeks out there. Working Dog Forum, Google something like that. Chat rooms, where a lot of people on those chat rooms and across the spectrum are just assholes, but they have a lot of nerdy, good information. You could either ask a question, or you could just go Google breeder recommendations, Working Dog Forum, and look at a few different ones, and then from there, and try to make contacts, whatever. But that's a good place to start, is on Working Dog Forums. Looking for a border collie, go to like Flyball or Agility Ball or Agility forums, working agility competitions, stuff like that. All right, there's a lot of information out there, but you got to know where to start, and with conceptually, framework of understanding before any of that information makes any sense. Because again, this is another topic that people have just been assaulted by misinformation on. And by the way, don't feel bad about going to a fucking breeder for a dog. I like 1-and-1. Do a rescue in 2 is easier than 1. It's a longer discussion. You can train 2 dogs better. 3 is a pain in the ass, but do 1-and-1. That's a great way to go. A rescue and a good breeder. Good breeders need to be supported just as much as we need to help rescue dogs. You know what I'm saying? That's a huge thing right there, is we need to maintain really healthy gene pools for dogs. Okay? So don't feel bad about it, and just feel bad about going to a puppy store, obviously, or some shitty breeder you didn't research and just threw money on. Feel bad about that. Don't feel bad about going to a good breeder, though. You're helping the species by doing that. Okay? So general advice, but make sure you go to a breeder who breeds for function over form. Very, very important.